Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, today I want to talk about how powerful I think Kawaki is after he did actually get the Karma Seal, and in fact, how powerful he is in comparison to the other Karma Seal users that we have seen in the past. And of course, the biggest comparison that we could possibly draw from Kawaki's Karma Seal is of course going to be Boruto's Karma Seal. Now this right here specifically is something that a lot of people have not necessarily been talking about as of yet. I personally believe that Kawaki's Karma Seal is going to be stronger than Boruto's Karma Seal 100%. Now, of course, we do have to take into account that it is possible that Boruto is taken over by Momoshiki, and of course, we did find out in the last chapter when Momoshiki takes over Boruto's body, Boruto gets a considerable power boost. Code essentially said it from the rip. He looks like a completely different guy when Momoshiki takes over. So obviously, I'm not necessarily talking about in the advent of that, but just strictly off of the Karma Seal, which one do I think is probably going to be more powerful? It has to be Kawaki, and it has to be Kawaki for a couple of reasons. I think one of the first things that we have to understand coming into like a discussion like this, specifically comparing Kawaki and Boruto's Karma Seal, is the fact that Boruto is going to be naturally stronger in the future just off of abilities. So of course, one of the things that they both have, which is the Karma Seal, Kawaki has to have an advantage. The reason why Boruto is likely going to be a lot stronger is because he has the Jegan. We've seen this in the time skip, and we've also seen this in the first arc of the actual series. The Jegan is supposed to be something very big. It's not necessarily supposed to be a slight upgrade. It's not necessarily supposed to be a good weapon to have. No, Tonetti said it himself. It's supposed to be the Star of Hope, essentially a series breaking dojutsu. Now honestly, we don't really know exactly what it's going to be, but I personally believe that the Karma Seal is going to be a very good way to potentially offset a little bit of the power gap between Boruto and Kawaki. I personally believe that Boruto is still going to be stronger in the future regardless, because it is his show, but regardless, I think that Kawaki could potentially close the gap with this Karma Seal. Now, the first thing is going to be the fact that Isshiki Otsutsuki is a lot stronger than Momoshiki Otsutsuki. We know that from the rip. I think everybody could pretty much agree upon that. And because Kawaki is going to be drawing most of his battle experience and most of his powers from Isshiki Otsutsuki, it's obviously going to be a lot better than Boruto drawing most of his battle experience and of course abilities from Momoshiki Otsutsuki. The other big thing that again not a lot of people are talking about is the fact that Kawaki can actually upgrade his Karma Seal, or his Karma Seal can actually be matured to 100%. This right here cannot happen with Boruto. Boruto is literally in danger of having his body taken over by Momoshiki Otsutsuki. Kawaki, on the other hand, has the leeway to let his Karma Seal go to 100% and not have to worry because Isshiki Otsutsuki is actually dead. His Karma Seal is purely just a weapon at this particular point. It's not necessarily to actually transfer his body to Isshiki Otsutsuki. Back in chapter 59, Amato essentially broke down Kawaki's situation. He essentially told him that he's still a vessel for Isshiki Otsutsuki, but it's not necessarily going to amount to anything because Ishiki's body has essentially been extinguished already. So of course, if Kawaki were to get another Karma Seal, it wouldn't necessarily have the huge burden as like a Boruto if the Karma Seal actually does go to 100%. Specifically, Amato said Ishiki's soul may have been extinguished, eliminating any chance of him possessing you, but it doesn't change the fact that you're his vessel. And the important thing about that statement is essentially Amato saying eliminating any chance of him possessing you. So of course, as I said, this right here, Kawaki's Karma Seal going to 100% and Boruto's Karma Seal being stagnant around 80-85%, that right there could definitely be a very big boost, and of course the power levels, and what could potentially lead Kawaki to be a lot stronger than Boruto when he is using his Karma Seal. And I think a very big part about this could also be the fact that Kawaki is actually going to be able to train in this form. We understand when Boruto enters that form, it's probably going to be very detrimental to his overall health and also the possibility of Momoshiki taking over his body for good. Kawaki, on the other hand, would be able to tap into stage 2 of the Karma Seal at will with no fear of Isshiki Otsutsuki taking over his body again, because again, as Amato said, Ishiki's soul has been extinguished. So not only is Kawaki able to unlock the final 20% of his Karma Seal, but also he's able to actually legitimately train with all of the actual battle experiences that Isshiki Otsutsuki had and make that power his own. We understand that the true essence of the Karma Seal essentially gives you the battle experience of the Otsutsuki member, but we see from Boruto's transformation that when he did enter that second stage of the Karma Seal, even though he had that wealth of knowledge from Momoshiki Otsutsuki, he couldn't necessarily apply it as well as Momoshiki Otsutsuki did when he himself took over Boruto's body. And I believe that Kawaki could potentially close that gap with the advent of training in that second stage of the Karma Seal, which again, I don't think that Boruto will be willing to do because of all the risks that are associated with him entering that form. I think a very good comparison for Kawaki is probably going to be Jegan. Now, I do want to point this out. Jegan is essentially a very different case, mainly because Ishiki Otsutsuki was controlling Jegan's body like damn near 24/7. Kawaki is not necessarily going to have an Otsutsuki member taking over his body during every single major fight, but I think if we're looking at peaks, I honestly think that Kawaki can potentially be even above Jegan. One of the things that we do know from Jegan is that his actual body was over 1,000 years old. The monk that Ishiki Otsutsuki took over was back when Kage was still alive, the first time. So that right there was such a long time ago, and just off of the vessel, as we did hear from Ishiki Otsutsuki, as we did hear from Amado, just the vessel and the body of Kawaki is so much better than the body of Jegan. And because of that, Kawaki can potentially reach higher heights with the power of that Karma Seal. And this right here, again, all stems from Kawaki training with his Karma Seal. One of the things that I noticed a couple weeks ago, which kind of aids this discussion, is that after the time skip, Kawaki has the staff that Ishiki or Jegan used a lot. Now that staff right there isn't just a regular weapon. If it was just a regular weapon, he'd have a sword. But this staff right here is very important, mainly because that staff right there is very synonymous with the jutsu that Ishiki Otsutsuki uses, Sukuna Hikona. Sukuna Hikona is essentially him shrinking a bunch of stuff. Now we understand that that jutsu right there is completely native to Ishiki Otsutsuki, and that right there pretty much tells me post time skip, it's a very good possibility that Kawaki has been training some of Ishiki Otsutsuki's core abilities. And of course, the Karma Seal, the second stage of the Karma Seal, gives Kawaki access to that battle experience for him to tap into. And of course, with his leeway to train with it, this right here would make him more adept with the Karma Seal than a character like Boruto. Now, we don't fully know if Boruto is going to have the Karma Seal under control at the end of the time skip, or by the time we did actually get to see the scene in episode 1. But essentially what we do have to understand is that as of right now, every single day that passes by, Kawaki is getting an upper hand on mastering the Karma Seal on Boruto. He's essentially going to be training a lot more. He's essentially going to be able to unlock a lot more of its power and a bunch of other stuff like this. The last thing that I did want to actually leave you guys with, and this right here is going to be a very interesting question. By the end of the time skip, do you guys think that Momoshiki will actually be dead? And if in the advent of Momoshiki's death, we don't know how what happened, legitimately we thought that he died already, but it turns out that he's still alive through the Karma Seal, but Ishiki Otsutsuki isn't necessarily alive through his Karma Seal. If Momoshiki somehow dies before the time skip, do you think that Boruto will also let Amado implant that same Karma Seal into him, essentially to have it as a true weapon? Let me know what you guys think. But it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.